Welcome to the today's news. Here is the fallout of Western sanctions on Russia. Amid Russia-Ukraine crisis, Western countries including US, European Union, United Kingdom imposes various sanctions on Russia. What are the impact on these sanctions? First, we will see what are the impact of the sanctions on Russia. Bank runs as Russians line up at banks to try to get their ruble deposit and convert it into the safer dollar. And impact on sanctions on India is not a member of India is not a member of NATO, European Union, and hence sanctions announced are not binding on it. However, India potash fertilizer requirement is totally made by import from Belarus and Russia. This might get disrupted due to supply chain distortions. If you see about the world, these sanctions impact world by the world supply of neon. About 90% of the world supply of neon used for cheap lithography come from Russia and Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine together account for 30% of the global supply of titanium, which is used in aerospace and armament industries. Let us see what are the possible geopolitical impact of recent developments. Rejuvenations of North Atlantic Treaty Organizations NATO that consolidate of West. There is a Cold War of the 1950s cold emerged between the Eastern Bloc consisting of Russia on one side and the Western power and their allies on the other side. Bank run occur when large group of depositors withdraw their money from banks simultaneously based on fears that the institutions will become insolvent. Moving to the next news. Next news is India, South Africa, Namibia oppose talks at WTO on e-commerce investment (MSMEs). This country have jointly voiced concern on the plurilateral talks on e-commerce investment facilitations, etc., gathering pace at the WTO. Plurilateral talks, called the Joint Statement Initiative, outcome of the 12th WTO Ministerial Conference, may take place in June. Plurilateral negotiating to the rules of this consensus decision making refused to be the part of the GSI discussions permanent solution. There is a foundational rules in the Marrakesh Agreement. Let us see what is Marrakesh Agreement. Marrakesh Agreement, which is stabilized of the WTO in 1994. WTO established in 1994 by the Marrakesh Agreement highlighted the concern over the fragmentation of multilateral rules following the Tokyo round and was in favor of developing an integral, more viable and durable multilateral trading system. GATT is a Tokyo round of General Agreement on Tariff and Trade negotiations in 1979 had to the plurilateral codes. Moving to the next news is IPCC released second part of sixth assessment report, Climate Change 2022, Impact, Adaptations and Vulnerability. Intergovernmental panels on climate change report reviews vulnerabilities and the capacities and limit of the natural worlds and human society to adopt. IPCC is a UN body which is established by UNEP and WMO in 1988. Let us see the key highlights of the report. The report says the adverse impact of climate change are far greater, more frequent, and vastly more disruptive than previously understood. Here is South Asians, including India, is among the most vulnerable, with the Ganga basin likely to face severe water shortage by 2050. There is a mass mortality event on the land on ocean. There is at least half of the world populations live in the regions vulnerable to the climate crisis. There is impacted the physical and mental health of people. These have increased the occurrence of diarrheal diseases. It is called for the ecosystem-based adaptations and nature-based approaches. Moving to the next news is the Cheetah Actions Plan translocate in 2022. In the backdrop of Indian delegations visiting Namibia, the cheetah capital of the world, ground are being prepared for appointing Namibian cheetahs as the country's goodwill ambassador for the India's 75 years of independence. Let us see what are the background. 70 years stay on the proposal to introduce African cheetahs in 2013. Supreme Court rejected the owning to lion translocation in the same Kuno Palper sanctuary and doubt of lack of prey base of cheetah. Also, an action plan for introduction of cheetah in India was launched to introduce 50 cheetah over 5 years. Let us see about cheetah reintroductions. African cheetah and IUCN status जो है African cheetah का is a vulnerable are being considered for reintroduction as Asiatic cheetah, IUCN critically endangered, are low in numbers, which is known to occur only in Iran now. Cheetah is a keystone species of dry forest, scrub forest, and savanna. It was declared extinct in India in 1952 due to overhunting and loss of habitat. It's a problem of overhunting and loss of habitat for several years. It is also the world's fastest land mammal. Cheetah is also the world's fastest land mammal. Conventions on international trade in endangered species of wild fauna and fauna sites. PM Gati Sakti National Master Plan for Multimodal Connectivity. These are also in news. International Atomic Energy Agency is also in news. There is a bilateral swap arrangement in news. MRIA is news. INS Vishakhapatnam is in news. International Monsoons Project Office was new in news. Periyar Tiger Reserve in news. Periyar Tiger Reserve is located in Kerala Hills. Let us see about the Periyar Tiger Reserves. Its location is situated in the Cardamom Hills and Pandalmam Hills of the southern western Ghats of peninsular India. There is a rivers associated with the reserve is Mulyar River, Periyar River, Amba River, Ajuta rivers. Highest peak is Kotambala, which is 2016 meter. Let us see the forest. There is a tropical evergreen forest, tropical semi-evergreen forest, moss deciduous forest, grassland is there, eucalyptus plantation is there. Another news is what's on the moon challenge phase 2. The next news is electronic goods, and there is a personality is in news. Let us see about the Samartha Ramadas, closely associated with Shivaji and was a contemporary of Sant Tukaram. He was an Advatin and a Bhakt. He gave the mantra Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Ram Jai Ram. His literary work, including Dasubad, Manach Shok, was addressed to the mind. His values, his spirituality devoted to the God. So this is all about it. Please do like, share, and subscribe.